Alrighty, hello everybody. My name is Patrick Dolan, and for my final review or final presentation, I'll be doing Ernest Cole's Lost and Found. So a little introduction and preface. This film was a documentary published in 2024, and it was directed by Raoul Peck, who is a Haitian filmmaker most known for his works that cover societal issues and historical events, and was narrated by Lakeith Stanfield, who's quite the prolific and popular actor, especially in recent years, with his works being in Get Out, Sorry to Bother You, and my personal favorite, Atlanta. The plot of this documentary follows the life and death of photographer Ernest Cole and his work in apartheid era South Africa, his exile, life in America, death, and legacy that followed. So the documentary begins with Ernest Cole, Ernest Cole working in South Africa as a photographer. Here he photographs the everyday brutalities, systems of oppressions, humiliations, and just overall brutalities that befall Black Africans under the apartheid state. Here we have top right, overpopulated prisons, and bottom left down here, just like cruel, dangerous working conditions that Black Africans were subjected to. And he published his work all in this book called The House of Bondage. Now, The House of Bondage received widespread recognition almost immediately from regular peoples, artists, particularly artists in the photography world, and most importantly, government officials in South Africa, which received a lot of scrutiny from. Unfortunately, this scrutiny was not well, as it led him to flee South Africa for his own personal safety, and he fled to the United States of America, particularly New York City. He continued photography and initially remarked on the seemingly contrast lives of USA and South Africa, where he witnessed, you know, white and Black people living within a community, the less of violence, less violent atmosphere, and even remarked about interracial relationships and gay relationships, which would have been heavily criticized back in South Africa. However, this contrast was nothing more than a gilded facade, as he soon came to realize he was still weighed down by the social and systematic racial oppressions, or similar social and systematic racial oppressions that he faced in South Africa. Furthermore, he struggled to emulate the prior success he saw with House of Bondage, as he worked with Drum Magazine, as well as working on getting grants. Many of these officials that were headlining those departments were unamused or not intrigued enough by his work in America, often citing that it lacked edge and wanted more of House of Bondage, but that's not what he wanted to do. And as this cycle continued, he slowly faded into obscurity. Unfortunately, he did not have any great breaks during his time in America. As he slowly faded into obscurity, he bounced in between homes, bounced in between public housing, and was often even homeless at certain points. And at the age of 49 years old, on February 18th, 1990, he passed away in New York City due to complications from pancreatic cancer. In his dying moments, his mother was able to come visit him in the hospital, and that's where his story ended for a while. Years later, 60,000 unpublished negatives were found in a Swedish vault of his time in America, which was quite miraculous because nobody knows how it got there. And these detailed his work and life, mainly pertaining to Black labor, economic exploitation, urban poverty, and Black communities in America. All and though his work was returned to Cole's estate, about 504 negatives were never returned, and there's currently still an ongoing dispute between Cole's estate and the Hasselblad Foundation about the ownership of those. Despite that, these negatives were able to give rise and repopularize his work and served as the impetus for this film. Um, I think the most important, something that really resonated with me personally was this quote that comes up in the beginning of the film. The total man does not live one experience. And I think that truly represents who Ernest was. Because simply labeling him as an anti-apartheid photographer simply undermines him as a person and character, as he was more than just an anti-apartheid character or apartheid photographer. He was a witness, an artist, a man in exile, and most importantly, a man searching for belonging in the tumultuous times he lived in. Images beyond word. There's this famous quote that I feel like we're all particularly that we all particularly know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It comes from Frederick Bernard when he was trying to emphasize the importance of advertising. And I think that truly resonates with his work. You know, being here in America, we learn about the history of racism in America as well as other nations. And we learn through text or through presentations from our teachers all throughout middle school, high school, even into college. However, text and reading can only do so much, as I feel that photography truly captures the essence of the lived experiences. And Cole's images truly reveal the injustices and inequalities and the emotional impact of these instances. Regarding Moskowitz, I understand Moskowitz's critical approach to writing about film was largely the guiding framework that we use to write our reviews through this film. And he does argue a lot of, he makes a lot of arguments and claims throughout his passages that we're giving in this course. And in particularly, I really felt that this quote from him resonated with this film. In many instances, a movie is fairly accurate portrayal of life. How human condition is at the present, was in the past, or perhaps will be in the future. Now, a lot of the films we watched were largely fictitious or abstract, used to contextualize or analogize certain situations in the home nations of the author of these films. However, this particularly directly rings true to Ernest Cole, as it was a documentary that showed his life, how it was in the past, him in the present, and his legacy beyond. And in my opinion, it's quite good. So, conclusion, personally, this was my favorite film of the term. From a cinematic standpoint, the videography, photography, pace, and narration were so eloquently intertwined with each other. It just may have produced what I feel is a beautiful and stunning piece. And story and life standpoint of this film, the documentary and just documentation of the real life struggle, oppression, and hardships was just so emotionally resonating and riveting that it truly took me back and moved me to tears. It was that good. I'm not trying to joke. I wholeheartedly recommend that if you have not watched this film, you give it a shot, and it is by far easily a 10 out of 10 film. And yeah, these are my citations. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. I hope you guys have a great rest of your term, and good luck on your finals. Pause.